throws it back up top. James puts up the three. Oh! Doncic pulls up, three-pointer. Bang! Bang!
Welcome back to the Double Trouble Podcast. It's been almost a month. The last one was July 5th, and that was a preview for the finals. And now we're a day away from free agency. So it's kind of funny how long it's been or how fast time goes. So there's not going to be any finals really talk in this. Like, I can go over it pretty quickly. Suns went up 2-0. They played great. And then Giannis just took over the next 4 games. He finally got help. The reason there was not much stuff for the finals is because I was on vacation for most of the finals. Like 3 games of the finals, I wasn't home, so I couldn't have recorded them. By the time I got back, the finals was already over, and then the draft was like a week after that. So I didn't want to record twice in 2 weeks. So I just forget the finals. You've probably gotten all the information from that series you need. It ended 3 weeks ago, so it's not really needed for me to go in depth. And now I can make an episode about the draft and free agency. So I know I was gone for a month, and I'm about to be gone for another month, sadly, because I'm about to go on vacation again. And so there probably won't be another episode for the month of August. And when I come back in September, the NFL season's about to start, and free agency will be about wrapped up. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about the draft. I'm going to talk about what we know about free agency so far, which starts tomorrow at 6 p.m. And maybe I'll get into a little NFL talk. There's not much to talk about in the NFL, but maybe. Alright, so starting off with the draft. The draft was interesting. I saw it. I don't know. I think I'm going to just go pick by pick for the lottery like I did for the NFL. It'll be much more analysis than the NFL because I actually know a lot about these players. I know their strengths. I know whatever. So, yeah, we start with number 1, Cade Cunningham. Amazing pick. I think the Pistons had one of the best drafts in total. They got Luka Garza, who a lot of people don't like Luka Garza, but I think he's going to be a pretty solid NBA player. They got good picks for what they had, man, especially Cade Cunningham. He's going to be great, and depending on what they do in free agency, I could see the Pistons being competitive very soon. They're in the Eastern Conference. We have, the Eastern Conference is lower in terms of competition. There are playoff teams that I can see going out and not being playoff teams next season. So I'm not I'm all in on the Pistons, man. We don't know what they're going to do in free agency. I've seen rumors of Tim Hardaway Jr. I like Tim Hardaway Jr. to the Pistons. I think that's a great fit, as long as they don't really overpay him, because the Pistons, they have a history of overpaying guys. They got rid of Mason Plumlee. That's always a good thing. They gave him to the Hornets, and that's a cap dump. They're going to be able to get some free agents. I like what they did in the draft, and I'm pretty excited for the Pistons' future. Moving on to the Rockets, another team that had a great draft. They got Alperen Sengun, and I like Sengun. I think Sengun's going to be very good. He's an athletic center that can pass, that can shoot. Every time you see a center that can pass and shoot that's European, you see Jokic, Dirk. But you don't have to compare these guys to Jokic and Dirk. You can just let them be them. And I think off the bench, the Rockets needed another big. He's going to be a good fit for them. And who they picked second, Jalen Green. The Jalen Green and Mobley stuff, you can have that debate. And people have been having that debate. I don't know. I can't tell you whether I'd want Jalen Green or Mobley. But the truth of it is, Mobley's camp didn't want to be in Houston. They didn't meet with the Rockets. And Jalen Green did meet with the Rockets. He did try out with the Rockets. Not try out, but he did work out with the Rockets. And he wanted to be in Houston. He met with Tillman Fertitta. There was a picture of him on Tillman Fertitta's jet days before the draft. So he met with Houston. They were fine with picking him. Mobley didn't want to be in Houston. So the pick went Jalen Green. And even if you think Mobley's going to be a better player than Jalen Green, there was no possible way Evan Mobley could go to Houston if Evan Mobley's camp did not want him in Houston. Speaking of Evan Mobley, next up the Cavs. And the Cavs was interesting. They didn't trade up for a second-round pick. They had no second-round picks. They gave one to Minnesota, I think. And They just the only pick they made was Evan Mobley, and man, as a Cavs fan, I am super excited for Cavs basketball next season. They also made a trade for Ricky Rubio. Ricky Rubio is one of my favorite players. I love his passing, I love his defense, I love the intensity, the motor he plays with. He's such a great guy. I love Ricky Rubio, and I'm so happy that the Cavs traded for him. He's gonna do wonders for Garland and Sexton's development. And the big problem with the Cavs is they didn't really have a good backup guard. Damian Dotson is not that good, and he was a free agent. Quinn Cook, also a free agent. Matthew Dellavedova, he left. He's going to be playing in the Australian League. He left the NBA. So they needed the backup point guard, and they went with Ricky Rubio. So I'm not mad about Ricky Rubio's contract or anything. I think that's a perfect trade for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and as a Cavaliers fan, I can tell you I'm happy about that trade. I'm excited for the Cavs next season, man. I think we could be a playing team. Them and the Pistons, they will be competitive next season. Both of them are going to be in playing discussions. If not this season for the Cavs, it'll definitely be next season. The Cavs basketball is back. It is back. Next up, the first kind of mad pick of the day. The Toronto Raptors went with Scotty Barnes. And I don't think Scotty Barnes is a bad basketball player, but I was reacting to the draft. I was like, what? Scotty Barnes? Because I just didn't expect it. There was reports the Raptors were 100% in Jalen Suggs, and I was like, all right, Jalen Suggs. They need a point guard. Kyle Lowry seems like he's gone. But it's going to work out for the Raptors, because I'll get into that a bit later, but it's that if what is rumored to happen happens, it's fine for the Raptors. So they picked Scotty Barnes, and the most confusing thing to me is how are you going to play Gary Trent, OG Anunoby, Scotty Barnes, and Pascal Siakam all in the same lineup while still wanting to get like Jared Allen? I guess maybe you move Gary Trent to the bench, but Gary Trent is about to be a free agent. You're about to pay Gary Trent like $40 million. I'm not paying a guy $40 million to be a 6th, 7th man. So maybe you let Gary Trent go. Maybe you do a signing trade with Gary Trent. I don't know. But I think there's a lineup where you can play OG at the shooting guard, Barnes at the small forward, Siakam at the power forward, Boucher at center, and then Van Vliet at the 1. But then again, where does that leave Gary Trent Jr., who you just traded for, and you're about to pay an extension? So I don't know, but I don't think Scotty Barnes is a bad pick. I think Jalen Suggs has the higher ceiling. It's weird to me that Orlando picks him, because Orlando's gonna have like 4 quality point guards on their roster: R.J. Hampton, Markel Fultz, Cole Anthony, and because Markel Fultz will be back soon, and R.J. Hampton. So yeah, it's gonna be weird for me at Orlando. But if they got Scotty Barnes, it would have been weird too, because Isaac is gonna be back, and then what's the fit with Scotty Barnes and Jonathan Isaac? I don't know, but I think Scotty Barnes, I think he'll be a good player. His defense is incredible. He's an incredible defender. The Raptors are a defensive-minded team. Nick Nurse is a defensive-minded coach. And I don't want to compare him to Kawhi Leonard, but if you can get a bit of that Kawhi production defensively and still get some good production offensively, then Scotty Barnes will be great for the Raptors. There's no better team for him to go for development than the Toronto Raptors. However, I don't think it's a great pick, because I think Suggs will be the better player, and Suggs was the better fit for Toronto. So that's me. I'm not going to spend too much on Orlando. I think they had a great draft. They got a great value in their picks. The only pick I was kind of confused about was Franz Wagner. I don't think that was the greatest pick there, but it's alright. I think Orlando, they're in a rebuilding phase. They got a lot of point guards, so I don't know what's the fixture for that. Like, they also still have Michael Carter-Williams under contract, so it's gonna be weird, especially when Markel Fultz comes back, whenever that is, because he did tear the ACL. It's gonna be weird for Orlando. They're maybe gonna have to trade some guys. They're gonna have to sort that out. But I think Suggs was great. He fell in their lap, and they can't be happy. They can't be happier about that. And then the second wow pick of the day, but the first bad pick, is Josh Giddey. Josh Giddey at 6 is insane. Is insane. There are guys that were better. Bunai is better to me. Kuminga, better to me. I would even say like Moses Moody, Chris Duarte will be better than Giddey. I don't think Giddey will be a terrible player. I'm always having guys that are coming from professional basketball instead of college. Josh Giddey was in the Australian League. He was playing professional basketball players, and maybe that's why the Thunder picked him. But I think since he was playing professional basketball players, he's already groomed into professional basketball. He doesn't need to be insanely developed. However, I think he's a good mid-range shooting guard. But is he the guard that you wanted to put near Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? To me, besides Shai, I would want a natural scorer like James Bouknight. A natural scorer that can defend well. If you look at Shai's strengths, he's an amazing playmaker and that can defend pretty well. And he's not really the amazing scorer. Like, I don't see Shai being a 25-point scorer. But guys like Bouknight, I can see being a 25-point scorer. I expected Bouknight at 6. Or maybe if you wanted to go more defensively, Kuminga. Bouknight or Kuminga. And they selected Giddey. That was super weird. The Warriors had a great draft. They got Moody, they got Kuminga. The Warriors literally couldn't have had a better draft. They got two great guys that I think are gonna go right into the rotation and be great for them. The Kings, Davion Mitchell. Davion Mitchell wasn't a bad pick in terms of talent, but in terms of fit, you just picked Tyrese Halliburton last year, who I cannot envision a reality where Davion Mitchell is a better player than Tyrese Halliburton. That was so weird to me. Joshua Primo, also a very weird pick. But I trust the Spurs. If anybody, the Spurs know what they're doing. Chris Duarte, even though Chris Duarte is 24 years old, I think he's going to be a very good basketball player. That's the only downside. He's 24 years old. He's a great scorer. He's going to be great for the Pacers. Corey Kispert, I like that for the Wizards. They need a shooter. They got multiple shooters on that team. And, I think we're going to talk about the Westbrook trade later. We're going to talk about free agency, trades, all that stuff later. But some steals here. The Hawks had an amazing draft. They got Sharif Cooper and they got Jalen Johnson. Two players I'm very high on. Jalen Johnson's a great two-way player. And Sharif Cooper is a speedy point guard who is going to fit right with Atlanta. A big problem they had, because they traded Chris Dunn now. They don't really have many guards when Trey comes off the bench. They traded for DeLon Wright. That was a weird trade. But I don't really have much to talk about other than there were some steals in the second round. Sharif Cooper. I think Luka Garza falling that late. I like the Knicks draft. They got Quentin Grimes, Jericho Sims. They traded down a lot. The Knicks were so weird. They were trading down every 5 seconds in the draft. But they ended up having a good draft. They got Quentin Grimes, who I like. They got Miles McBride, who I also like. So they had a good draft. And now, then we move into undrafted guys who are going to play in Summer League. Alex Antetokounmpo. I was kind of weirded out why the Bucks didn't pick Antetokounmpo at 60. So weird to me. Like, at 60, why not? And they didn't even sign him to play Summer League. The Kings got him. That was just weird to me. But, yeah, that's it for the draft. I don't have much to talk about. I gave some in-depth reaction on some picks. And, yeah. Before we move on, though, another team who had a good draft, the Clippers. They got B.J. Boston. They got Keon Johnson, Keon Johnson was projected top 10 in most mock drafts and he fell to the 21st pick. That was insane. The Knicks got him. I was happy. Then the Knicks traded him. Whatever. Alright. So on to trades. Aaron Holiday got traded to Wizards. And the trade that happened a few days ago. Chris Dunn to the Celtics. It was a 3-team trade. Chris Dunn to the Celtics. Tristan Thompson to Sacramento. And DeLon Wright from Sacramento to Atlanta. Atlanta also gave Boston Bruno Fernando. Woj reported it as Bruno Caboclo at first. Where's Bruno Caboclo nowadays? I don't even know. But that was an interesting trade. I kind of feel for Tristan Thompson, who you get sent to Sacramento, you die. Like Hassan Whiteside went to Sacramento. Who's heard of Hassan Whiteside? Sacramento is not a place where your career is gonna flourish. But Richaun Holmes is a free agent. It seems like they're trading Marvin Bagley. Getting Tristan Thompson isn't really bad for Sacramento. Hassan Whiteside's not that great, so they feel like they needed another center. That's not bad. I think that's a pretty good pickup for Sacramento, especially for Lowry, who's older. And I think Lowry fits Atlanta though, because they need a defender who can shoot the 3 ball. That's Lowry. That's his motto. That's exactly what he brings to the table, and there's nothing wrong with having that. And then Boston made 2 trades for point guards. Or guards, because Josh Richardson is kind of like a combo guard. Acquiring Chris Dunn, I really liked. Chris Dunn didn't really have a role in Atlanta. He couldn't find playing time. So, him going to Boston, where I think he's going to play more. He's going to get a bigger role. The fact that the Celtics acquired 2 defensive-minded guards makes me think there could be a Marcus Smart trade on the horizon. I don't know. I'm just saying, I don't know what this means for Marcus Smart, because apparently there's some inner rumblings in Boston that Marcus Smart might not want to be there. But yeah, I like the Chris Dunn deal. He's going to be a nice backup guard for them. Josh Richardson had a terrible year last year. You would set the records great. Josh Richardson sucked. Dallas needed him gone immediately. He was a bad contract. He was taking up space. He was unplayable. In the playoffs, he was not great defensively. He was terrible offensively. I think he can have a bounce back. He's had a bad last few years, man. He wasn't great in Philly. Wasn't great in Dallas. But he was really good in Miami. He needs to find that role that he had in Miami where he can come in, score the ball, play some defense, and get out. He doesn't need to be asked to do too much. And he flourishes in that role where he's not asked to do too much. But last year just an off year. And Philly was off too. And he needs... But I think there's no getting down from here, right? You can't go worse than Josh Richardson does. Not playable in the playoffs, just sitting on the floor, not even being a rotational player. And Philly was just a backup that didn't really do much. That's the floor. It's only up for Josh Richardson. He can only get up. If anything, he's the same, and he's still not a rotational player, and he's still not playable. But I think he's going to have a bit of a bounce back. I think he might be better than he was in Philly. I think he might be better than he was in Dallas. Because I think Boston, he really is going to flourish in this role. He could be a shooting guard, he could be a small forward, he could be a point guard. He can be whatever you need him to be. And I think that's great for Boston, kind of. After the draft, I was sleeping when this trade happened. I woke up and I saw it. Derek Favors to OKC. That gave the Jazz cap to re-sign Mike Conley for a 3-year, $60 million deal. That's good. That's good money for Mike Conley. He was an all-star last year. Mike Conley was great last year, and that wasn't bad. And before we get into the big one, a trade that happened a week ago, or a little over a week ago. It was a weird trade. Jonas Valanciunas to the Pelicans for Steven Adams, Eric Bledsoe, the 10th pick. The Pelicans got the 17th pick. They ended up picking Trey Murphy. The Grizzlies ended up picking Zaire Williams. But I think this trade's incredible for the Pelicans. They won. Yeah, these guys, they could have got at 10. That would have been good for them, but no. Jonas Valanciunas is not going to clog the floor. He's not a 3-point center, but he can shoot the 3. He's not like Steven Adams that's just going to sit in the paint all day. I think he's much better than Zion to spread out for Zion. They got rid of Eric Bledsoe, who's a bad contract. That's great. You need to get rid of Eric Bledsoe. And they freed Cap. They're going to be pursuing Kyle. Oh, well, I don't know. The Pelicans situation is weird. I do want them to get Kyle Lowry, but we know with what we heard today, it seems like Kyle Lowry is going to be in Miami. But then they aren't going to re-sign Lonzo. So, if you don't get Kyle Lowry and you let Lonzo go, it kind of seems like your team takes a downgrade. Unless there's another point guard that you can see in your team. I know they're going after Chris Paul. I would love Chris Paul to the Pelicans. Chris Paul to the Pelicans would be phenomenal. But I don't know if it's realistic to expect that you can get him out of Phoenix. So I just don't know what the direction is for the Pelicans. But if they do not take the playoff leap next year, that's going to be terrible. Zion reportedly is already unhappy. He's only played with them for 2 years. And if he's unhappy and you miss the playoffs 3 straight seasons, man, I do not know what the direction is for the Pelicans. But I think they're going to get some good guys in free agency. They're going to build around Zion, and they should be a playoff team next year. All right, so the biggest trades everybody's talking about, Russell Westbrook to the Los Angeles Lakers. So, the news break for this trade was very weird. They reported that the Lakers, after Montrezl opted in, they were close to trading for Buddy Hield for Sacramento. I was like, alright, that's great. They needed the shooter. Kuzma and Trez, that's not a lot. That's a great trade. But then, the Lakers pivoted. The Lakers didn't do the Buddy Hield trade. It was their decision. They could have had Hield. They could have maybe had DeRozan. They could have Westbrook. And they chose Westbrook. I am not going to come here unlike other people and say, this is not going to work. Spacing's going to be trash. They haven't played a single game together. They haven't had a single practice together. I'm not going to write this off. I'm a fan of Russell Westbrook. I'm a fan of LeBron James. I'm a fan of Anthony Davis. And I think this can work. What has to happen for this to work? I think a few things have to happen for this to work. One, they must, and even if they didn't trade for Russell Westbrook, this should have happened. AD has to move to center. And the Lakers need to say, the hell with Andre Drummond. Andre Drummond should not be a Laker by next season. Andre Drummond should not even discuss re-signing Andre Drummond. Anthony Davis should move to center. You need to keep Marc Gasol. Then Marc Gasol's your backup center. Davis is your center. LeBron moving to power forward could also happen. I've seen Rudy Gay and Carmelo Anthony rumors. You can slide Melo at that power forward spot, or you can put Melo off the bench. You can put Rudy Gay at small forward, put LeBron at power forward. But the shooting guard position, which we do not know who would be yet for the Lakers, presumably Taylor Horton-Tucker, but I don't know. Taylor Horton-Tucker is going to be an unrestricted free agent. I don't think you should max. If he gets a bunch of money, I don't think you should max what he gets. There are free agent shooters available for Lakers. JJ Redick. There's going to be guys available that can shoot the 3-ball. Wayne Ellington. For that starting shooting guard. The starting shooting guard and the starting small forward must be above average 3-point shooters. Or the starting shooting guard and the starting power forward. The two other starters that are not Russ, LeBron, and Davis must be above average shooters. If they're not above average shooters, then this will not work. The other thing that has to happen, Russell Westbrook needs to be able to at least hit mid-range jump shots. Russell Westbrook's not a terrible 3-point shooter. He's not Ben Simmons from 3, but he's just not high percentage. He misses a lot. But he needs to be explosive off the dribble, but he needs to be hitting those mid-ranges. If you go back to before the stoppage in Houston, Westbrook was hitting mid-ranges. He was hitting deep step-backs. He was in his Duffy. And Houston was playing very good before the stoppage. Everybody was like, there's only one ball. And Russ and Harden isn't going to work. If Russ and Harden worked for the most part, they got the second round. If the Lakers got to the second round, that would be an upgrade from what they did this year. But, they got to the second round. You can't say that's terrible. They got the second round. And they lost to the eventual champions. The Lakers would have beat them even if they didn't go small and trade Capella. The Lakers were just better. Anyway, if I can get 2020 Russell Westbrook before stoppage, before he got injured in the bubble, if I can get that Russell Westbrook, this is going to work. So, I'm not gonna write this off. I think it can work. I'm excited though. I'm excited to see what it is, what it will happen. I'm not gonna get into much free agency stuff. There's rumors, but man, because I can address other rumors right now. And this episode might age terribly. What looks like it's gonna happen is Kyle Lowry to the Miami Heat. It might be a signing trade with Goran Dragic, and that's great. Lowry and DeRozan want to reunite. I think there's a signing trade that can be made with, goodness gracious, if they will trade Tyler Hero, there's something that can be done. Tyler Hero to the Spurs and picks DeMar DeRozan to the Heat. And then you'll have Lowry, DeRozan, Butler, whoever's at power forward. Maybe Trevor Ariza and Bam. I don't think the spacing's bad there. Maybe you can still re-sign Duncan Robinson. And Duncan Robinson can also be a target for the Lakers. But I think that's a perfect lineup for the Heat in a perfect world. And then the other rumor, which is pretty strong, which looks like it's going to happen, is Lonzo to the Bulls. There's mutual interest. Lonzo wants to be on Chicago. They want to give him a good contract. And, oh, man, I like that. I think Lonzo fits perfectly with the Bulls. The Bulls also trying to get Derrick Rose. As a Knicks fan, I don't want Derrick Rose gone. But he would be great for the Bulls. A lineup of Lonzo, Levine, Patrick Williams, Lauri Markkanen if you choose to re-sign him, and Nikola Vucevic is a playoff team. That could actually be a top 5 seed. So if that happens, I'm excited for Chicago. I'm excited for Miami. And I think this next season is going to be so great. I can't wait for free agency. Starts tomorrow, like near 24 hours from now. We're going to be having a good time. I will be on the podcast. Not for a long time, because I'll be on vacation. But I'll be on the podcast, and I'll be talking about free agency next time I see you. And maybe the NFL season will be closer to then. Not really much NFL talk. There's a lot of COVID stuff going on. That's all I know about the NFL right now. Teams are panicking. Coaches are panicking. So, we'll see what happens with that. But everybody's in training camp. But anyway, I'm just rambling at this point. If you've made it all the way to the end of this Double Trouble podcast, I appreciate you so much viewing it. Like, it means a lot. It supports me a lot. So, if you've made it to the end, you're incredible. Thank you for watching. This has been a Double Trouble podcast, and I'm out.